What up, everybody? How's everyone's week going? Are you doing as well as I am? I hope you are. Now, Andy, or Ron Buddha from YouTube, had asked me this question a while back. He wanted me to break down the champions of the top 3 promotions. And who better to break them down? I mean, really, the guy who represented Gulf Coast Power Pro Wrestling at Takedown Entertainment in Elton, Louisiana this past Friday, and I represented them as the champion of Gulf Coast Power Pro Wrestling. And I faced Irish Mike in a hard-fought battle, my debut at Takedown Entertainment, and I was successful in my debut, beating Irish Mike. They were so impressed, the brass of Takedown Entertainment, that they ventured to Beaumont, Texas, to the McDonald Gym to watch me defend my Gulf Coast Power Pro Wrestling heavyweight title against Rockstar Robbie. And I successfully defended it. Now, unfortunately for me, there was some controversy to my victory, and the GCPPW brass have decided to give Rockstar Robbie a rematch for my Gulf Coast Power Pro Wrestling heavyweight title. And that's going to take place March 17th in Beaumont, Texas at the Montag Center. So be on the lookout for that. Also, this weekend, I get to take one step closer to the TASW heavyweight title. I get to take one step closer to main eventing the Humble Rumble 19. And guess who my opponent is for this #1 contendership match? Take a guess. Ready? Rockstar Robbie. Woo, it's getting hot. It's getting hot. Now, before I go on with the championship breakdown, let me give a few words to Rockstar Robbie. So, Rockstar, I hope you're paying attention. I'm sure you're watching. I'm sure people have hipped you to this. Look, man, I got all the respect in the world for you. As a competitor, you take me to my limit. Each time that I've been in the ring with you, you take me to my limit. You've got immense passion. You're a true representative, a good representative of what Texas Indie Wrestling is, a good representative of what those that attend Booker T's Pro Wrestling Academy can look forward to. They can aspire to become as great as you. I hold you in high esteem, Rockstar Robbie, and I consider you a great competitor. It just so happens that you and I always seem to face for these immense, risk-reward type scenarios. I mean, whether it's Gulf Coast last weekend for my GCPPW heavyweight title, or this weekend we face for the #1 contendership. Now, I've told the TASW brass that when I was coming back, my main focus, my main reason for coming back was to win the TASW heavyweight title, a title that has eluded me for years, for a decade. It has eluded me. And it is one of the main reasons that I decided to come back to begin with. Now, you'll be standing on the opposite side of me, and despite my respect for you, and despite me not ever taking you for granted or taking you lightly, because I won't be, I hope to God you bring everything you've got, because I'm going to bring it all. Every ounce of my being I'm going to bring to this fight, to the El Campo Rumble, because I need to become the #1 contender so that I can move on past you to the Humble Rumble and face the TASW heavyweight champion and finally claim what I have fought so hard for, and that is to become the TASW heavyweight champion. So, Robbie, bring your A game. Bring everything you've got. Bring all that passion. Look to entertain like no other, because at the end of the night, you're looking at the new #1 contender. Woo! I know it's hot. It is hot in here. Hot in here. One second. All right. Now to the main portion of this video. Like I said, Ron Buddha asked me to give my opinions, break down the current crop of champions for the top 3 promotions, and that's what I'm going to do. And I have some notes. Yes, I took some notes, obviously, because I wanted to get all the names straight. So I'm going to start with the promotion that I watched the least. No offense to them. I am a general admission member, ringside member for their website, rohwrestling.com, where you can watch their videos of their past TV shows a week after they happen or after they air. And I do watch it. It's not as religious. It's on my computer. I don't get to watch it a whole lot. It's just not part of my routine, unfortunately. But I am familiar with their champions, and some I've met and some I'm acquaintances with. But so let's start with the tag team champions, who are the Briscoes. I don't have a problem with the Briscoes being the tag team champions. I consider out of all three promotions that Ring of Honor's got the deepest tag team division, or at least that's the appearance to me. I see them have multiple teams. Some may break up, like Future Shock I think is broken up. But for the most part, I think they have the deepest tag team division, and it's good that the Briscoes represent them. Jay and Mark have been there pretty much since day one. I know Jay has. I know Mark at some points in certain states he couldn't wrestle because of his age. But I like them as tag team champions. They're 7-time tag team champions. They beat wrestling's greatest tag team in Benjamin and Haas. I find their YouTube stuff very entertaining. Anytime they're on the video wires for ROH, I find them entertaining. I think they're a good representation of Ring of Honor, of their style. And again, they're entertaining to watch. I like their tag team stuff. I mean, they're considered one of the best tag teams in the world, so why not have them represent your tag team division? I know they're facing the Young Bucks this Sunday, I think, on IPPV. Is it this Sunday? Yeah, this Sunday. I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it. I don't know. I'm probably not. But I know they're facing the Young Bucks. And Young Bucks are another team that I think could represent the tag team division pretty well. So, yeah, let's move on to the television title, and that's carried by Jay Lethal. I like Jay. I like his work. I find him entertaining. I found him really entertaining as Black Machismo, I think, as a lot of people did, as well as with his feud with Nature Boy at TNA. And then he got to ROH, and that's where he got his start. Was a young up-and-comer back then. And then he came back and he faced El Generico and won the television title. And I think he does a pretty good job of representing the television title. It seems he holds it in such, with such reverence, which is good. It's the only thing he's got I've heard of in certain promos, especially since he's facing Tommaso Ciampa this Sunday, who is undefeated and has a streak and whatnot, has a certain intensity that I like. But, back to Jay. I like Jay. Sometimes his promos, I get some concern because I'm used to seeing him be so entertaining. And there are times where it just seems like he's phoning it in. Especially when they bring him in, like Kelly Kevin or Jim Cornette are talking about an event coming up, and then they bring in Jay or whoever, and they just seem kind of, the promo seems kind of flat. When that should be the time where you're, trying to talk people into coming to the event. That might be the only knock. So yeah. Next is the ROH Heavyweight Champion. That's Davey Richards. I like Davey's work. For a work rate heavy promotion like ROH, I think he does a pretty good job of representing that style. He paid his dues in Japan. Faced Eddie Edwards. Beat Eddie Edwards. They had this feud. They were friends, and now they're kind of not so much friends. He's got a good style to him. He's got a good look. They do a good job with him and all the other champs, ROH that is, of really pushing their top tier talent as far as making them, putting them on flyers and putting them on advertisements for it. So he's got to be the main guy. And I guess if you're looking at a guy to represent the style of ROH and the spirit of ROH, he would be the guy. Now, he's doing kind of like this MMA gimmick, or that's what I've heard. I haven't seen it so much. I know, he's more like, I'm just going to kick your face off and whatnot. And I come from the belief that if you're the main champion of the promotion, your drawing power sometimes will work if you're a good promo guy. And a lot of times, or at least your promos are believable, like you're emotionally invested in the matchup that you're in. And sometimes with Davey, I don't feel that, especially for a guy who's so intense. Sometimes I'm curious as to why he doesn't bring that intensity all the time on his promos. But again, I mean, you can't knock him. He is a champ. I think he does a pretty good job representing. So yeah. Next is Impact. It's on my DVR, so it's scheduled, so it is always recording. I feel the shows have gotten a little bit better. Actually, they've been better. Not good enough for me to watch the pay-per-views because I still don't think they do a great enough job of hyping the pay-per-views. If they only hyped up everything like Bound for Glory, but still, they really have to correct a lot of the problems that they did have. But I think they're on the right track in some cases, and we'll cover that. First is the women's tag team titles, which as I'm filming this is Madison Rayne and Gail Kim, who are also going to vie for the Knockouts title, which I'll get into in a second. But I've heard spoiler alert, and I'm not really sure when this is supposed to take place, but I hear ODB and Eric Young are now the women's tag team champions, or Knockouts tag team champions. I don't know what to say about that. I like them as a team. And then I heard there's a proposal from Eric Young to ODB, so we'll see where that goes. And they've got a couple of teams, like you got Tessmacher and Tara, who Gail Kim and Madison Rayne defeated. You also got Angelina Love and Winter. You probably got Sarita and Rosita. So you got a few teams. I mean, if they really wanted to build a story around it, I think now they were fodder pretty much for Gail Kim and Madison Rayne and their impending feud, which brings me to the next one, which is Gail Kim and as the Knockouts champion. She's the first Knockouts champion. When she went to WWE, it was what it was. I don't think she was utilized properly. And she came in with came into Impact with a bit of a chip on her shoulder, and that really translated well with her promo, at least her very first promo. And then aligning herself with Karen Jarrett and becoming a heel, which, I think some people scratch their head. I thought it was a pretty good move because it wasn't what people were expecting. And I felt like it probably would work to some degree. She's not great on the microphone. Of course, she doesn't have a lot. She's getting more practice with it. But I think she's one of the best workers there. And a line of, and there's quite a few girl knockouts there that could give her some stiff competition. Right now, she's feuding Madison Rayne. She beat Velvet Sky for the title. So, I just wish they'd put a little more story. But again, they are putting some story with Madison Rayne and her and kind of the build-up. And maybe it'll build up into something very nice. We'll see. Obviously, they had some miscommunication, which led to ODB and Eric Young winning the tag team titles. So, Knockouts tag team titles, or women's tag team titles. Anyway, let's move forward to the tag team titles. That being Samoa Joe and Magnus. I don't have a problem with this team. I think much like the team that they beat, which was Crimson and Matt Morgan, they were looking to give them something to do. I don't think they had a whole lot for them to do. They put, and I could see that Joe and Magnus had some good tag team work. They seemed to flow pretty well. And I don't really have a problem with them as a team because it looks like Joe's motivated. Magnus is coming into his own. He's been there for a little bit and he's come back and, had some opportunities kind of fall through. And it's good that they're actually using them and that they seem motivated. But, honestly, the tag team division as a whole is not very strong. They don't have Mexican America. They don't have Beer Money, obviously. They don't have Motor City Machine Guns. And they don't really seem to have any teams outside of this, outside of maybe Magnus and, outside of Crimson and Morgan to feud with. So, it's made for a decent feud so far, but, unless they bring in some teams, what are you going to do? Next up is, I'm going to put the television champion here as far as order of importance, and that's Robbie E. who beat Eric Young. And I felt Eric Young's television title reign was a pretty solid one because they were thinking outside the box and they were putting him on TV. And it's Eric Young, and I find him very entertaining. When they gave it to Robbie, I was probably like a lot of people, like, what? Why? Although since then, anytime I see him and Robbie T acting like kind of his bodyguard slash, he holds the velvet rope open for him and whatnot, I find that okay. They're not bad. Robbie's not horrible. I mean, he's stuck with the Jersey Shore gimmick, but hey, that's the gimmick that they gave him. And he seems to be working with it pretty well. Thing with me and the television title is that it should be defended every time there are cameras on. Anytime that he's able to defend it, he should defend it every week. And they should make that title a little more competitive and something that doesn't necessarily need a storyline. But if they're going to keep it on a guy long term or, for the foreseeable future, and they don't seemingly have anybody for him to feud with, that could be a problem. Because, again, he needs people to feud with. And he is the TV champion. I think, they need to do more with him, especially if he is going to be the TV champion. Next is the X Division champion, and I gotta say, I'm impressed with Austin Aries, but I've always been impressed with Austin Aries. They did a really good job of building up the X Division, building up to Destination X, and bringing in new faces and bringing in familiar faces. And Austin was one of them, and he's made the best of his opportunities. The greatest man who ever lived. I like the moniker. I like his ring work. I do like his mic work. I think he's solid on the microphone. I think he's solid in the ring. I believe he beat Brian Kendrick for the title, and he's gone through a slew of guys like Jesse Sorensen. He's Brian Kendrick, obviously, Alex Shelley recently, Kid Cash. So there have been guys that he's gone against. With Sorensen's injury, now he's facing Zema Ion, or it could have been Zema Ion was always the plan. Zema Ion's a solid guy, and he's got some personality which works. I could see Aries holding it a little bit longer, and once he feels like he's gone through the X Division, to actually go and face former champions, where then you bring in, like a Kazarian or Daniels or, hell, Abyss, down the road, or AJ Styles or Samoa Joe, and just kind of put out that vibe that he wants to be considered the greatest X Division champion of all time, and then transition maybe to another title. But I like Austin. I think he's a good choice for the X Division because at least he's vocal and he's got personality, and he's not just doing spots and whatnot. He's telling stories with his matches, and I like his stuff. I like what I've seen. Next up is the World Heavyweight Champion, and I've been saying this since he won the title. I'm a fan of Bobby Roode's, and I'm a fan of his title reign. When he lost to Kurt Angle, after all that buildup, I was groaning like a lot of people. But then, James Storm won it the next week, and I was like, okay, so they're going to give it to James. All right. And then a funny thing happened, and they gave it to Bobby Roode, and he turned heel. And I liked the way he turned heel, and I liked what they did with it, and I really like what he's become. And he's been a guy that's kind of mowed through guys, whether it be James Storm or Jeff Hardy, which seemingly are the two main ones that he's feuded with. He's feuding with Sting, so we'll see how that goes. I don't have a problem with Bobby Roode as champ. I think, he's another one that could keep the title for a while and be, do something interesting. And as long as he's got the title, I think it's a good thing for Impact. And I hope they build to the money feud with him and James Storm, and they build it, for a while, not just till lockdown, but they actually do something with it. So now on to WWE. Probably the most talked about promotion of the three, the mainstream darling, I guess. But there are some things that aren't necessarily right with them. So we'll get started with the Divas title. Beth Phoenix. She beat Kelly Kelly. They had a bit of a feud. Beth went from that. She wanted to do Pin Up Strong. She was doing Pin Up Strong style before that. But yeah, she's kind of mowed through people too. mowed through quite a few, and it's kind of been one of those things where they kind of build someone up, but it's not really a great build. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. Tamina, and before her, Alicia Fox, and I thought they were going to build to her and Natalya, kind of a best versus the best kind of deal. I hear Karma's in the works. That Beth's just going to mow through people until she faces Karma. I don't know, man. I wish they would give her more mic time. I wish they would do something with her. I know they're doing the stuff with Natalya, the farting thing, which it is what it is. Same thing with Eve. Now she's become one of these women who uses men, or uses her natural gifts to gain attention and rise through the ranks. But hey, it is what it is. At least they're doing something with them. Not so much doing something with Beth, which I wish they would. Because I think she's a pretty solid representation of female empowerment, as it were. Next up would probably be the tag team champions, Epico and Primo, who beat Air Boom. Way to go, Evan. Way to go. Hey, what you do, and you got popped, and whatever. Then you got popped again, and there are kind of some tag teams. They're the Usos. They could do some makeshift tag teams, like now they have Kofi and R-Truth tagging, and who knows why Kane was involved in his stuff. I guess they can make Camacho and Unico a tag team if they wanted. Maybe Santino. I thought they were going to do something with Santino trying to go after those belts, but then the Elimination Chamber happened. So I'm not sure what's going on, but all in all, I don't mind them as a team. I think they bring in some of that flair of their matches are a little more spotty. They're very creative with their finishes. I like how their matches are put together for the most part, and hopefully they could keep them, and they could start bringing in teams. And I know WWE doesn't care about the tag team division, or at least that's how it's brought about. But who knows, man? Maybe they make enough noise, or they allow. They've got Rosa Mendez with them, so they could potentially do something. I don't know. It's kind of hard. Anyway, moving forward, a guy who has a title and beat a very popular champion, but really hasn't done anything since other than a 3-minute squash match on a pay-per-view, which I'm not a fan of. Not a fan of you, a former world heavyweight champion in Jack Swagger, and you're not giving him anything. Give him the title, but then when him and Dolph come out and they're tagging, he's second fiddle, but he holds a title. And there was an instance where he didn't even have the title for like a Raw or something like that, where it's like he didn't even wear it out, which, what the hell? If I was Jack Swagger, I'd just be more vocal. I'd be as vocal as humanly possible. He is the United States champion. He should be shown a little bit better than he is. He beat Zack Ryder. Obviously he beat Zack, and he was hurt or whatnot, but hey, man, he beat him, and then they really don't do anything with Jack Swagger, which is a shame. It is a shame. Next is the Intercontinental Champion, Cody Rhodes. Been one of the longest reigning champions in recent history, I think, since Shelton Benjamin. He's like 200 plus days. Gone through a metamorphosis. He beat Ezekiel Jackson. He's faced Randy Orton, held his own. He wanted to bring prestige and honor back to the title, and he changed up the title. He did more than CM Punk. CM Punk said he was going to change up the title when he wanted, and yet it's the same title that John Cena presented all those years ago. But Cody Rhodes, however, telling people, I'm going to bring prestige back, and he changes up the title from the more recent to a flashback title, which I'm fine with, because his gear matches it. And now he's feuding with the Big Show, which I'm okay with. If Big Show wins it, all right. If they at least let Cody defend it at WrestleMania, I'd be happy with that. But we'll see. I don't mind Cody as champ. I think his evolution's really it's something, man. I'm really proud of what I see when I watch Cody. Another guy I'm extremely proud of, and his representation as champion, is Daniel Bryan. I remember Daniel Bryan when he was the American Dragon. He wore a mask and he teamed up with Spanky, now the Brian Kendrick, and he was working like 3 times for 3 different TV tapings at TWA, or Shawn Michaels TWA. I've always been a fan of Daniel's work. When he was on NXT, I was proud to say, man, I saw a guy when he first started, and look at him now. And he made it up the ranks, and then he won Money in the Bank, and I thought, man, that was amazing. Just the fact that they gave him that. And even if he lost, which I was always under the impression that they're never going to have a guy from Money in the Bank lose. I mean, they probably will at some point. But I was really impressed with that. And then he started losing, and, I was like, what? And then he beat the Big Show. After the Big Show beat Mark Henry. After this culmination of a big, long feud between Mark Henry and Big Show. And Big Show finally gets the big win, and here comes Daniel Bryan. And man, I was amazed. Because Daniel Bryan went from being a babyface, like the Raw after that show, to becoming probably one of the more hated guys. To where people are just damning Daniel Bryan for everything he does, and it's amazing his evolution from babyface, hardworking Daniel Bryan to the heel, swarmy, backs into wins. And I've had this conversation with friends in the past, because he's beaten guys. I mean, he beat Big Show, and he beat CM Punk, and he beat Mark Henry, and he beat Randy Orton, and he survived the Chamber, and he survived he survived a cage match, a triple threat cage match. He survived that. And I had conversations with friends who were like, man, they're just totally dropping the ball with Daniel Bryan when he was starting to become a heel. And my thinking was, well, do you want another Rey Mysterio in your hands? You want the babyface underdog champion facing giants and losing non-title matches? And then you're like, man, his title reign was a sham. Or do you want a guy that now he's doing all those things that I think WWE said he couldn't do? Well, you're not charismatic. Well, he seems pretty charismatic when he's out there. I like his celebrations. I love how he comes in and how he leaves, and how he just seems so just happy to be there and happy to be in his role. And why not? Because he's World Heavyweight Champion. And I like his reign. I really enjoy his reign. Because it just shows, man, they work with the talent, and the talent's really on board with things. And no matter what you say, he's facing Sheamus at WrestleMania. I think that's going to be a pretty good match, because I heard good things about that match last year's WrestleMania. And the couple things that I've seen with them, a couple things of interaction. Now people are saying, Sheamus is just going to beat him. I don't know that. I don't know that if for certain that's going to happen. I don't know if Daniel Bryan doesn't just retain and prove everybody wrong yet again, and then he can you'll never hear the end of it. And which could be his claim to fame. I won at WrestleMania. I beat Sheamus at WrestleMania, the Great White Sheamus. So yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about it. I like, being a guy that likes guys on the mic and whatnot. I mean, I've enjoyed it. The inclusion of AJ, I'm okay with it. And finally, the guy who holds the biggest belt, the guy who had a whole summer and beat some top guys and struggled at times, but kind of changed things up somewhat. And I'm talking about CM Punk, the WWE champion, the guy who holds the main belt. When all this got set in motion and Money in the Bank happened and he won it for the first time, I was shocked. I was shocked that they were going to let him do that. I was shocked that he got to walk away. I was shocked that it worked on so many levels, and that everybody was talking about it from that promo on. He talked people into the building. And then, of course, it had to, and then he beat John Cena again at SummerSlam, which I think a lot of people who are saying, well, Cena never puts anybody over. It's like, man, he'd be putting this guy over, a few times. And then Del Rio captured, and then he wins it. So now, he beat Del Rio, and he's been champion since, and he's beaten Dolph Ziggler, and he's beaten The Miz and Del Rio, and he lasted through the Elimination Chamber, and he's held that title. He's held that title. And there are some people who have criticisms, and rightfully so. Some of the criticisms, that he doesn't take anything seriously. It seems like, and he's always joking around. And then I think, well, John Cena does that. The Rock does that. A lot of champions do that. I don't know necessarily if I agree with doing that all the time, but, I think Punk's deal is until you can shut him up, he's going to keep talking. He's going to have that attitude, and he's going to call it like he sees it. And, of course, he's feuding with John Laurinaitis, and that's kind of came and went because now he's going to be feuding with Jericho. And I like what I've seen so far. I like the Jericho thing. I don't really have a problem with what everyone else has a problem with it seems like. And I kind of look at it like, well, all this build up and then their first face-to-face promo I thought was pretty decent because they made it about the WWE title. They made it about being the best in the world and being the best wrestler in the world. And they could have a potentially one of the best technical matches out there for a title. And it could steal the show. It could. I'm not going to say that because Rock and Cena could steal the show, or Undertaker, Triple H could steal the show. I mean, that's the thing about WrestleMania, but that's another video all entirely. Again, I could voice some of the concerns that some people have, but I can see it from Punk's side as far as, everything's a joke until someone gets in his face and makes him understand that it's not a joke. And then we're going to see the Punk that is fired up. I mean, once you get on top, it is hard to be angry. I think that's what it boils down to. Punk, back then when he's cutting these promos and at times when he's able to show that intensity, it's because he's pushed against the wall or because he's got something left to prove. But when you're the top guy and you've beaten some of the top guys, it becomes a situation of, well, until you beat me, what? Oh, you talk about, and he's gonna talk about people and point out things. And I'm not necessarily a fan of that, but again, Attitude Era, they did it, and they're doing it now. So yeah. That was my championship breakdown. I appreciate everybody kind of taking the time to listen to this and giving me a sec. And I know it's a pretty long video, so hopefully you're playing in the background, you're just listening to my voice or what have you. I appreciate everybody's concerns and comments and questions and feedback. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. You know how to get a hold of me. Like me on Facebook, friend me on Facebook, do what you got to do, comment on this video, give me feedback. I like feedback. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, this Saturday I'll be in El Campo for Texas All-Star Wrestling's El Campo Rumble, where I will be facing Rockstar Robbie for the #1 contendership and the main event slot at Humble Rumble 19 to face the Texas All-Star Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. I'm very much looking forward to that. I've got added dates, which I'll talk about next week. So be on the lookout for my video next week. And like I always like to finish these, I always like to say stay cool, stay sexy, stay classy. But here's the thing. If you feel so inclined to allow yourself to demark out, if in the back of your head you go to a show and it's like, you know what, man, there is no show without Steve DeMarco. Or you're going, man, there are a lot of guys who call themselves pro, but you know who really puts the pro in professional wrestling? Steve DeMarco. Or if you just like saying my name because it's catchy, well, and you like coming to the Lucha Lounge, and you comment and stuff, well, then you are cool, sexy, and classy. But until the next time, later!